Hello and welcome to this IFSEC Tech Talk. My name's David and we're joined by HID Global, a leading player in the identity space, helping to secure the world's people, places and things. And today we're going to take a look at how users of existing HID SE readers can mobile enable their access control by adding support for HID mobile access. Together with Jim Burton from HID Global, we'll cover questions such as: how do I know whether an iCLASS SE or multiCLASS SE reader can support HID mobile access? And how do I go about upgrading it if it doesn't? I'll be putting those questions and more to Jim in just a moment. But first, Jim has a short demo of the HID mobile access upgrade process in action.
Hello, and welcome to this Tech Talk, where today we're going to be looking at how you can add support for HID mobile access to your existing HID readers. My name is Jim Burton, and thank you for watching. So the most important thing that we need to do is identify which readers can be updated. Now, thankfully, recent enhancements in the HID Reader Manager platform now ensure that Revi, iCLASS and multiCLASS SE readers installed since 2012 can now be upgraded to support the HID mobile access ecosystem. So how do we go about identifying which actual readers have been installed since 2012? Now, this is done by the blue label as shown here. So this blue label with the white HID logo is a way of highlighting externally that it's an SE reader that you've got installed. And by adding the mobile access support to this existing SE reader, we've literally got millions of readers out there deployed worldwide that can now support digital credentials from HID, and it only further extends your return on investment from having HID products already installed. So what does the kit actually consist of? Well, it consists of two parts really. It consists of the module, the BLE module, Bluetooth Low Energy module that is fitted into the back of the existing reader, and it also includes a metallized sticker that needs applying to the backplate to act as a screen. And there's 4 part numbers available. There's a part number for all form factors for the SE reader range. So there's the RP10, R10, which ends 900, right through to the RK, so RPK40, which ends 921. And 900, 910, 920, 921 are the part numbers or base the part numbers for the actual readers themselves. Okay. Right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop sharing the screen, and I'm actually going to show you how we go about fitting the upgrade kit itself. Okay, take my existing SE reader here. Okay, so I have an SE reader. So imagine this R10 SE reader is attached to the wall at the moment. So there's the backplate in situ. Okay, so first thing I need to do is I take the backplate off, or take the reader off the wall effectively. And now if we look in the back of the reader, you'll see that there's 4 locating holes here. Now they will become relevant shortly. Okay, and also there's a expansion port there which is now covered with a piece of electrical tape. So the first thing we need to do is remove that piece of electrical tape. Okay, and when we remove that piece of electrical tape, there we go, we can see the expansion port is displayed or is visible. Okay, so the next thing we need to do, I'll read it down for a second, is we take our BLE upgrade kit. Okay, and our BLE upgrade kit, the static bag, contains 2 components. Okay, first component is the metallized sticker, and the metallized sticker is for fitting onto the backplate, and that's to provide some level of screening from the Bluetooth frequencies that we're going to add to the reader. And the second thing, of course, is our BLE upgrade kit module, and that's the actual size of the module. Okay, there it is, designed to fit into the back of the reader. And we can see there's these 4 locating pins here, and those 4 locating pins are designed to align with the 4 holes in the back of the reader. So if we actually physically position that correctly, I'm just going to turn around so I can see what I'm doing, and then I press that home. Okay, so that module is in there now. Okay, so that's essentially, from a mechanical perspective, that's it for the reader. Okay, the second part of the upgrade process is to apply this metallized sticker onto the backplate. Okay, now whether the backplate's in your hand, as it is here with me, or whether it's still screwed to the wall, it doesn't really matter. Okay, and you'll see that there's cutouts on the back plate that actually line up, or there's holes on the back plate which line up with the cutouts on the sticker. Okay, so if I just place that sticker on there and then go stick it to, and there we go. Okay, now you can see that the metallized sticker has been applied to the back plate. It's very important that you do that, you know, as part of this upgrade kit. Okay, we can now fit the reader back onto the wall, which is what we're doing here in reality. Okay, clip it back onto the back plate and bring it home, and there we can see now, and the back plate ensures that the module is kept firmly in place. Now the reader is attached back to the wall. Okay, so the next thing that we need to do is we need to power the reader back up, and we need to connect to that reader using the HID Reader Manager app. Okay, so that's the next thing we're going to look at. Okay, so we have our reader now attached back to the wall, and we've applied power. And the next thing we need to do is open the HID Reader Manager app. And once we've logged into the HID Reader Manager app, then we'll come with this screen here. So the first thing we need to do is scan for readers. When we scan for reader, we can see the reader that we've just applied the BLE module to, identifying itself as HID reader. So we select that. And then the next thing we want to do is inspect that reader. So we carry out an inspection of that reader. And as you can see, it says inspecting reader state. Okay. So just wait a few seconds for that to complete, and then we'll see what options we're presented with. Finalising the inspection now. And what it does now, it's presented with a top level look at the reader that we've got. So we can see that the reader has various things. It does have a recommended firmware update. So the Reader Manager has checked that the latest version of firmware available from HID is later than the reader version that's installed. And actually, if we go down the screen, we can see the firmware information. We can see the loaded firmware is version 8.9.1.4, and there's actually a later version which is 8.9.2.1. Okay, and we can also see what this reader actually supports. We can see it's a high frequency. It's an iCLASS SE reader, and we've seen now, of course, that it has the BLE and OSDP support in there, which has been added from that module that we fitted, showing you earlier. Okay, so let's apply a firmware update, because we're recommended to do one by the app, and it's always good to have the latest firmware available on the reader. Now we're being asked to cycle power, so let's just do that. Okay, for the reader to power back up and start communication process. Now that power cycle there is basically a validation check to ensure that you have the rights to do what you're about to do. Okay, so as we can see, it's now looking to see how long it's going to take, and it's going to take about it's actually going down very quickly. So, a couple of minutes or so to complete this firmware update. So I think we'll leave it doing that, and then we'll resume back once it's finished. Okay. So the firmware upgrade is now completed. And the reader is just validating that the update has been completed successfully, and now we can see that there is no firmware update offered anymore. Next thing that we need to do, and we can see that the loaded version is the same as the release. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is actually physically configure the mobile reader part. Okay, so this time I'm going to go for detailed configuration. And we can see there's various options available in here. And the thing that we need to do to make this reader mobile enabled is to apply the mobile encryption key, the customer's keys that are linked to their portal. Okay, and these are issued by HID when the end user onboards for HID mobile access. Okay, so if I wanted to add a key, okay, and then we can see that HID test keys in here, so MOB001, and I want to add that to the template. And then the other thing I can do in here as well, I can adjust settings with regards to the ranges of and enabling things like twist and go, and the mobile using your wearable app specific, and things like transmit part. I'm going to leave all those as default, which would be the recommended way to start, and only change them if you actually need to when you're actually commissioning the system. So I want to apply those changes. I'm going to apply the MOB. So there we are, we've successfully applied that, and our job here is done. So we've done everything we need to do to turn our previously unmobile enabled reader to make it mobile enabled. We've fitted the BLE upgrade kit. There it is in the back of the reader. And we've also applied the relevant settings that we need to set to ensure that this reader is now mobile enabled. So the last thing we really need to do, of course, is to take our mobile phone and to test it. So let's present the mobile phone to the reader. And there we go. And you can see as soon as the phone becomes in range of the reader, it reads the mobile identity. There we go. We can see the LED changing state, and we see it's reading the ID. And it's very much a similar experience to what you'd expect with a traditional physical credential. But obviously you get all the added convenience of using your mobile phone to host your credentials securely. Not only is it delivered over the air and revoked over the air in pretty much real time, but also you've got extra features of the smartphone that can be used to secure the identity, such as only allowing the identity to become active when the device is unlocked. So I hope this Tech Talk has been informative and useful, and I'll catch up with you all on the next one. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.
And Jim joins us now. Hello, Jim. Thanks for the demo. I've got some questions for you on here. Let's take a quick look at some of those. Right. So, what happens if my customer wants its employees to use a mixture of cards and phones for accessing the building? How does that work?
That's a very good question. So thankfully, when we upgrade our reader or we have a mobile capable reader, we don't disable the ability to read the existing cards. So that's one of the things. It very much is a complementary technology. So you can support both HID mobile access, as in using your mobile phone for your credential, but also physical cards as you did previously.
Best of both worlds. Thank you very much indeed for that. And building on that, how does the mobile phone key work? How does that part of the access control chain work here?
Yeah, so all the clever bit is done actually at the reader itself. So with regards to the user experience, so the user is actually interacting with the reader, we try to make it as seamless and as similar to experience as it has been historically with regards to using your physical credential. So whereas before you would have presented your physical credential, you would have placed it onto the reader, we have an operation mode for your phone that we call tap. It's a very, very similar experience to that. And it's as people use their mobile phone for many different things nowadays, including contactless payment, which is obviously the key thing that we all see now with mobile phone. It's a very similar experience to that. I mean, there is other operation modes as well, whereas we can have a greater distance between the reader and the phone for things like lift foyers or warehouses, things like that as well, where you can get a longer read range than you would traditionally.
Interesting. You mentioned mobile payments there. I mean, I use my phone to pay for things. I've also got a smartwatch as well. I use this to pay for things as well. Is that an option? Is that something that might be an option in the future?
It is, yes. I mean, you can use a wearable device effectively now, so your mobile phone never needs to leave your pocket or leave your bag. So as you approach the HID mobile reader, you would interact with your wearable, basically tap an icon on your watch. That would start the engagement process, and you could just seamlessly go through the door without even taking the phone out of your pocket.
Fantastic stuff. And yes, the next question is, how do I get an HID virtual mobile access card on my phone?
Well, you see, there's two ways of doing it, really. So that HID mobile access can be used with pretty much any access control platform in the world, we have our own user interface. Okay, so it's a web-based portal. So you would log into this web-based portal and you issue what we call an invitation code via email to the person that wants to receive the mobile ID. They get their email. In the email, there's instructions of how to download the app, and there's also the activation code, the invitation code that we send as well. Okay, so that is then downloaded to the device, and then it's a virtual digital card that's stored on your phone. The other option is, and this is the way that we're seeing the industry go, is that there's a central piece of management software that can either be done through your native access control software. So you would just issue it as you would traditionally a physical credential. So in the same interface, when you go into there to enroll somebody onto the database, you would have a tick box that says send a mobile ID. Then they get the same email behind the scenes as if it had been gone through the HID native user interface. So, but it's all seamlessly integrated behind the scenes using the API. And then the other option that we're seeing is a identity access management solution that would do both aspects. So it would sit in between. You would have one piece of software that you use to manage your identities, and one would fetch it automatically from HID, and then the second task would be to force it down into your access control database. You know, with the sort of large scale deployments of mobile access that we're now seeing on a more enterprise level, it's very key to have that integration. And we work with a lot of technical partners and access control manufacturers to be able to deliver that.
Super. And I guess to reinforce a point that you made in the demo just there, you were installing a Bluetooth low energy unit in there. So this is all over Bluetooth. How is that? How does your mobile access use Bluetooth in that case?
Yeah, well, we use both Bluetooth and we use NFC as well with our solution.
Okay.
So it's not exclusively over Bluetooth. What happens with HID have a secure communications protocol called CIOS. We use the same cryptography, the same encryption on both our physical CIOS credentials and on our mobile credentials. So very much this is a way of just virtualizing that physical credential that we've used for a number of years. So the communications that are over Bluetooth are all using CIOS secure messaging. So it's AES-128 encrypted. Yep. Everything is heavily encrypted, and it's only actually decrypted in the SAM of the reader before it's sent down to the access control system. There's also each CIOS transaction is unique because it is digitally signed. So we counteract. We hear all sorts of sort of things in the world about trying to spoof communications, or one of the common terms is a replay attack, where somebody with a suitable device would capture that interaction between the phone and the reader. The person then walks away, and then they replay that to the reader, and that reader then assumes that you are the person that went through before. That's not possible with CIOS. CIOS counteracts that possibility by ensuring that each transaction is completely unique, and therefore if you tried to replay it, it would just be ignored as a spoof transaction.
Good to hear. Good to hear. Thank you for going into that detail as well, because obviously, you know, many of us are used to similar sorts of access to our vehicles, you know, keyless access to our vehicles, and that vulnerability that you spoke of just there is certainly something that, you know, people have heard of, kind of catching that handshake and then replaying it later on. So good to know that you've got a solution from that. From what distance will the virtual card on the phone or the wearable be read at? What kind of distance are we talking about?
Depending on what mode of operation we're talking about. If we're talking about tap, which is the general sort of mode that we'd use for things like turnstiles and general day-to-day access control, it's round about 15 centimeters, slightly less, a similar sort of distance to what you'd expect from a physical smart credential. You know, there is some level of adjustment in that, so you can reduce that range if you wanted to down, especially if you had a lot of readers close together in turnstiles, people coming in the morning, so that's adjustable. If you're talking about using the twist and go, which is where the basically you can rotate the device to mimic a door being open, to be honest, that's what it is. So we have our AI, or algorithm that starts the process. You can get possibly 2 meters or possibly even a bit more line of sight. So if you have a large warehouse with a roller door, and as you're approaching it, you can interact with the phone, you can send effectively your BLE or Bluetooth transmission to the reader. That will then decode it, and then as you approach it, the roller door starts rolling up ready before you get there. So again, a level of adjustability. The beauty of using the Bluetooth low energy protocol for long distance, or it gives us the ability to do long distance, which wasn't technically possible, of course, with a physical credential, which are always very, very close to the reader.
I just want to come back on something you said there. Twist and go, kind of using my phone and having that physical action. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so what normally happens in normal access control mode, or the way that you would use a traditional credential, is when you get to within close range of the reader starts the process of reading. So the reader is transmitting, it recognizes that the phone or the physical credential is nearby, and it starts the key negotiation process. That's the way it's worked historically. With regards to twist and go, you're in charge of starting that. So effectively, when you twist your phone, the accelerometers in the phone effectively trigger the broadcast. It's the same accelerometer that spins the screen rotation round when you twist your phone. That then sends a message to the reader. Now, provided you're in range with that reader, it'll pick up that message and say, "Oh, I've picked up a twist and go message from a, from a HID mobile access app." It'll then talk back. The key negotiation process will then start, and then it seamlessly does it behind the scene as you approach the reader. So yeah, it's just instead of the reader starting the process, you start the process yourself.
Twist and go. Really interesting stuff. Thanks a lot, Jim.
So it's just one. I say that there's three modes of operation really. We've talked about tap, and the tap. We did sort of touch on the wearable side of it as well, didn't we? Where you use your watch to start that's similar to twist and go, but your watch instigates the transmission. But there is also the third option, which is to have a widget. So
a widget,
a widget, which is again a way of remotely starting the broadcast. Some people like to use. You get widgets in the side, on that. If you've got your iPhone, you swipe to the right, and then there's the widget section. We put a widget in there as well with regard to mobile access, so you can tap on the widget. That will start the process as well. So yeah, it's very much a range of options, whichever suits best, and each door or each reader can be adapted accordingly for best experience.
It's that flexibility, meeting users where they're at. That flexibility is very important. That leads us on to our next question here. Will it work with my customer's existing access control system?
Yes, is a simple answer. Yes. Basically, what HID, if you've got existing HID readers, or if you've got any access control reader that uses either VGAND, which is a common protocol used industry standard for a number of years, probably since the 90s, clock and data, which is another industry standard, and then more recently OSDP, which is the sort of the latest industry standard. So our readers use all those three protocols. Now that covers 99.9% of every access control system that exists in the world. The very few that don't have that protocol, they use a proprietary protocol for their own readers. There's normally an aftermarket interface or some way of converting the protocol anyway. But you'll find that, the vast majority out of all the systems that exist in the world, you can fit a HID mobile reader onto that and then use mobile access.
So beyond access through turnstiles, doors, and so on, the next question is: Can the mobile ID be used beyond access control? For example, I use my current card on the printer too. How does that work for you?
Yeah, no, and it's a really good question actually, because it's not just for physical access control. It can very much be used beyond physical access control. And the way we do that is HID as a business, or HID as a brand, is made up of various business units, if you like. Now, the bit that I work for is the physical access control solutions. So the bit that we're talking about, the doors bit, okay, going seamlessly through doors and access control. But we have other business units, one specifically called Extended Access Technologies. And their remit is to extend the use of HID credentials beyond physical access control. So exactly what we're talking about with regards to, say, printers or multifunctional devices, or cashless vending, or pretty much anywhere where you would use your existing access control card or smart card, you can use a mobile ID. We work with all the leading partners, and they will embed effectively the technology that sits inside a HID PACS reader, physical access control solution reader, will go inside the printer. So there's a little module that sits behind. And that in the same way that reads your existing smart credential, it will read your mobile ID as well. They're Bluetooth, BLE, and NFC compatible.
This is the future. I mean, I think I know the answer you're going to give here, but does HID think this kind of technology, this flexibility, particularly going mobile first, is the future for access control?
HID are really heavily invested into the mobile world, the mobile first world. So we very much believe this is the will be the next evolution of credential technology. Now, so if we go right back to when access control first started, late 70s, with magnetic stripe cards, we've always had in access control a plastic card of the same size. It's an ISO standard, it's always been the same. And whether it's been a swipe or a present, it really hasn't changed. We've had biometrics, which have come into the mix, but biometrics has always been, for high security or certain doors. It's never been mainstream access control. So the future of access control, is gonna move away from the traditional plastic credential. It just is. There's a number of advantages to using your mobile phone. First thing, obviously, convenience. So we really think it's a far more convenient way of doing it, because you can have multiple digital identities sitting in your phone, so you don't have to carry multiple plastic cards. It covers that. One, you can issue it over the air. We've talked about that. So there's no actual physical, there's no delivery, there's no postage, there's no fetching, so all that, and it can be revoked over the air seamlessly as well. And then it offers additional modes of operation. So we're not just a traditional tap. We've talked about long range and things like that we can do as well. And then it also enhances security, and that's what it's all about. Because not only do you have, we talked about COS and we talked about how secure the transaction is, and you can't replay that or spoof it, but you can use the technology of the phone itself to increase the security. You can have it so that if you lose your mobile phone, okay, and you can't unlock your mobile phone, you can't use your mobile ID. If you lose your access control credential and somebody picks it up, they can basically go and present it, and provided it's still active on the system, you can go through doors. Whereas with a mobile phone, it's not, because if you can't unlock that device, then the mobile ID is not active. So therefore it adds an extra layer of security, multi-factor authentication, with the first factor being the phone itself. So we do truly believe this is going to be over the next 5 to 10 years, mobile access will become the normal way of doing access control. We won't 100% replace it. Okay, there's always places where mobile phones can't be used. There's certain manufacturing environments where you wouldn't be able to use your mobile phone. But for the vast majority of access control deployments, mobile access will be the future.
Let's address this question because it's important. Obviously, in the demo a few moments ago, you're very clear about which readers can be upgraded. But the question here is, what if my current readers cannot be upgraded? What are your courses of action there?
Yeah, okay. So if you've got a reader that's over 10 years old and it's a non-SE reader, so if it's a previous generation of HID reader, you would need to replace the reader. That's it. So we have, at this present moment in time, HID have really two reader families in production. Okay, we have our the one that we spoke about that you can upgrade, the SE family, and then a couple of years ago we launched the HID Signo reader, which will ultimately become our only reader platform when SE is phased out and Signo. So the thing was, if you want to support HID mobile access and your reader can't be upgraded, you just need to replace that one reader with a HID Signo reader, and that would be the solution there. Worst case. But like I covered off, there is millions of HID readers out there in circulation that have the ability to be upgraded to support HID mobile access.
Final question, I'm afraid, Jim, in the time that we have, how can people get in touch with you at HID if they need support in upgrading their readers?
Yeah, sure. The best thing to do there is to visit our website. So it's www.hidglobal.com/mobile access. And there you'll be able to find all sorts of information about what I've been talking about, and also links how to get in touch with the sales team and organise a demonstration and see for it with your own eyes.
Jim, it's been really good speaking to you today. Thank you very much for chatting us through that, and indeed for taking the questions. Look forward to catching up again soon.
And yourself. Thanks. Bye-bye.